Have you ever taken a pill, then a few hours later found yourself feeling more tired, maybe even dizzy or a little foggy in the head? You chalk it up to aging. Well, that's just what happens after 70, you might think. But what if I told you, it's not always age that's to blame? Many folks in their 70s, 80s, and beyond live with symptoms they think are just part of getting older. Fatigue, unsteadiness, memory slips, even depression. But sometimes it's not aging at all. Sometimes it's the very medications meant to help that could be making things worse. Now, before we go any further, let me be clear. This isn't about fear. This is about awareness. It's about taking charge of your health, asking the right questions, and having informed conversations with your doctor. You deserve to feel as good as possible, for as long as possible. And that starts with understanding what's really going on inside your body. So today, we're going to talk about something most people never think twice about, those little pills we take every morning, often without question. We're going to walk through 4 common types of medications that, for people over 70, can sometimes do more harm than good. You might recognize 1 or 2 from your own medicine cabinet, or maybe a loved one's. Let's start with something incredibly common, antihistamines. You know, the ones we use for allergies, colds, or even as sleep aids. They're often sold over the counter, and they go by names like diphenhydramine or chlorpheniramine. You might not even think twice before taking one to help you sleep on a restless night. But here's the catch. These medications have what's called anticholinergic effects. That's a fancy word, but what it really means is they can mess with your brain chemistry. In younger folks, the side effects might just be mild drowsiness. But in older adults, those effects can be much stronger. You might feel confused, unsteady, or like your memory's slipping. Some people even start to hallucinate or feel anxious and depressed, and they have no idea the cause is something as innocent seeming as an allergy pill. What's worse is that sometimes these medications are hiding in plain sight. They're added to nighttime pain relievers, cold medicines, or even PM, sleep formulas. If you've ever taken something to knock yourself out for a good night's sleep, there's a good chance it included a sedating antihistamine. Over time, these can increase your risk of falls, hospitalizations, and even cognitive decline. That's no small thing. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but I've been taking this for years. And that's fair. It's familiar, it works, and it feels harmless. But our bodies change. What worked at 50 might not be safe at 75. That's not your fault. That's just how aging works. It's all the more reason to pause and reassess. And here's the good news, you don't have to stop everything cold turkey. There are often better, safer alternatives that won't leave you groggy or foggy. But they start with a conversation, with your doctor, your pharmacist, or a trusted healthcare provider. Ask questions. Bring in the bottle and say, is this still right for me? You might be surprised at how many times the answer is, let's try something else. Now, let's talk about another category that's even more common, benzodiazepines. Big word, right? But you probably know them by names like Valium, Ativan, or Xanax. These medications are often prescribed for anxiety or insomnia. They can make you feel calmer, help you sleep, and quiet those racing thoughts. But, and this is important, they come with a price. For people in their 70s and beyond, benzodiazepines can increase your risk of falls dramatically. They slow your reflexes, cloud your judgment, and affect your balance. But more than that, they can sneak up on your memory. Long-term use has been linked to memory problems, confusion, and even dementia-like symptoms. You might think you're just getting forgetful with age, but it might be the medication playing tricks on your brain. And here's where it gets tricky. These drugs are habit-forming. The more you take them, the more your body relies on them. It becomes harder to sleep without them, harder to feel calm, harder to imagine going without. But that doesn't mean it's impossible. With the right support and a step-by-step plan from a doctor who knows your history, many people taper off and find they actually feel clearer, steadier, and more in control. This isn't about blaming yourself. It's about reclaiming your power. Because once you know what's really going on, you can make decisions that work for you, not just the younger version of you, but the you who's wiser, more experienced, and ready to live fully in the years ahead. And isn't that what it's all about? Living fully. Not just surviving, not just managing, but thriving. So, now that we've looked at two medications that could be quietly undermining your health, those sedating antihistamines and the benzodiazepines for sleep or anxiety, let's keep going. Because knowledge is power. And the more we uncover, the better choices we can make, not just for ourselves, but for our families, our friends, and the generations looking up to us. Let's keep this conversation going and take a closer look at what else might be hiding in our medicine cabinets. If you've ever felt your legs give out a little when getting up from a chair, or found yourself reaching for the wall to steady your steps, it might not just be age or weakness catching up with you. It could be your blood pressure medication. Let's talk about alpha blockers and certain blood pressure meds. These medications are often prescribed to treat high blood pressure or symptoms of an enlarged prostate. And for many people, they've done a lot of good over the years. But after 70, the story changes a little. Your body becomes more sensitive. Your blood vessels don't bounce back as quickly as they used to. So when a medication that lowers blood pressure also causes your blood vessels to relax a little too much, it can lead to something called orthostatic hypotension. That's a fancy term for a simple but dangerous problem. Your blood pressure drops when you stand up. And what happens then? You feel lightheaded. Maybe you stumble. Or worse, you fall. And for someone in their 70s or 80s, a fall isn't just a bruise. It can mean a broken hip, a long hospital stay, or even the loss of independence. And the strangest part? You might not feel anything until you do stand up. You could be sitting, watching TV, feeling totally fine. Then you rise to get a glass of water and suddenly the room spins. You think you stood up too fast. But the truth is, it's often your medication reacting with the natural changes in your aging circulatory system. Now, this doesn't mean you should stop your blood pressure meds altogether. Please don't. High blood pressure itself is a silent threat. It can strain your heart, your brain, your kidneys, doing damage behind the scenes. But it does mean your dosage or type of medication may need an update. What worked at 60 might be too strong at 75. There are options, medications with gentler effects, or adjusted timing to prevent those dangerous dips. Sometimes even simple changes, like taking the medicine at night instead of in the morning, can make a huge difference. And that's where your doctor comes in. Not to take things away from you, but to work with you to make sure the treatment is still working for you. Your body is different now than it was 10 years ago. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. It's the wisdom to know that adjustments are not defeat. They're smart. They're proactive. And they can mean the difference between living cautiously and living confidently. Now, there's another one we need to talk about. It's one of the most common medications prescribed to older adults, and at first glance, it seems harmless, helpful, even. But let's take a closer look at proton pump inhibitors, or PPIs. They go by names like omeprazole or pantoprazole. You might know them as medications for heartburn, acid reflux, or ulcers. And to be fair, they can work wonders. No one likes that burning feeling rising up after a meal. But these drugs weren't meant to be used forever. Yet many people take them daily for years, sometimes without ever being told to stop. And that's where the trouble begins. PPIs, over time, can interfere with the body's ability to absorb important nutrients. We're talking about things like calcium, magnesium, and vitamin B12. When your levels start to drop, it can lead to fatigue, muscle cramps, memory problems, even weakened bones. Some studies even suggest a link between long-term PPI use and an increased risk of fractures in older adults. Think about that for a moment. A medication you're taking to prevent discomfort in your chest could be quietly making your bones more fragile, your mind more foggy, and your body more tired. And the worst part? You might never make the connection. You might think you're just getting older, slowing down, losing strength. But again, it might not be age. It might be the medication you've trusted for years, never realizing it's been running in the background, quietly draining your reserves. Now, of course, PPIs have their place. For short-term relief, for healing damage in the esophagus, for people with certain medical conditions, they can be lifesavers. But they're not meant to be a lifelong habit, especially not without regular review. There are alternatives. Sometimes, lifestyle changes like avoiding certain trigger foods, eating smaller meals, not lying down after eating, or elevating the head of your bed can do just as much, without the long-term risks. There are also other medications with fewer side effects, or plans to wean off gradually under medical supervision. And that's the theme that keeps coming back, isn't it? Awareness, review, reassessment. Because the truth is, no one hands you a health manual when you turn 70. No one says, hey, your body's changing. Let's look at that medicine list with fresh eyes. But that doesn't mean you can't ask. It doesn't mean you can't take that first step, that moment of curiosity, that decision to advocate for your future. You've been through a lot. You've earned the right to feel strong, steady, and clear-headed. And that starts with understanding what's really going into your body, and whether or not it still belongs there. So now we've talked about the sleep aids and allergy pills, the anxiety meds, and those tricky blood pressure and acid reflux drugs. Each one has its place, but each one also carries risks that become more pronounced with age. And you don't have to figure it all out alone. That's the beauty of this moment. You can use your voice. You can say, this isn't working for me anymore. You can ask, is there a better option? And you can partner with the people around you to create a plan that honors your life, your experience, and your goals. Because this part of life? It's not a slow fade, it's an awakening. It's a chapter filled with clarity, courage, and choices that serve you. Let's keep exploring those choices together. Now, I want to talk to you about something that might come as a surprise: statins. These are medications prescribed to lower cholesterol, and they're among the most commonly taken drugs by older adults. Names like atorvastatin, simvastatin, and rosuvastatin might ring a bell. You may have even been told you'll be on one for life. But here's the thing, after 70, especially if you don't have a history of heart disease, the benefits of statins become a bit more complicated. Statins do reduce the risk of heart attacks and strokes in people with existing heart conditions. No one denies that. But for folks in their 70s and beyond who haven't had those problems, the picture starts to blur. The protection statins offer might be smaller than we once thought, while the side effects can loom larger. Some people taking statins start to feel a deep, unexplained fatigue. Others feel like they've lost strength in their legs, or they ache all over. I've spoken with people who say they used to walk a mile a day, and now they struggle to get to the mailbox. Some even feel foggy, as though their thinking has slowed or dulled. These are real experiences, often dismissed or misunderstood, but very much worth paying attention to. That doesn't mean statins are evil. They've helped millions of people. But it does mean that, for some, especially those in good health otherwise, the trade-off might not be worth it anymore. Maybe your cholesterol is a little high, but your blood pressure is perfect, your weight is steady, and you're active. In that case, the conversation might shift. Maybe lifestyle changes, like eating more whole foods, walking regularly, or cutting back on sugar, are a safer, more sustainable path forward. And you're not alone in asking these questions. Many doctors are starting to rethink one-size-fits-all prescribing, especially for older adults. The latest research encourages personalized care, not just based on numbers, but on how you feel, what you value, and how you want to live. Because this is your life, your body, your future. What I hope you're hearing in all of this is that no medication is inherently bad. Each one has its time and place. But the key is this: medications that worked in your 50s or 60s might be doing more harm than good in your 70s or 80s. And unless someone takes the time to really look, those side effects, fatigue, weakness, dizziness, memory trouble, might be brushed off as just old age. But you know better now. You know to look closer, to listen to your body, to speak up. I want to take a moment here and remind you of something important. Feeling good is not a luxury. It's not something you should apologize for wanting. You deserve to feel clear-headed, strong, stable, and confident. Not every day will be perfect, but you shouldn't have to accept feeling off, groggy, or unwell as just how it is. Even small adjustments, changing a dose, switching to a different medication, or phasing something out gradually, can bring surprising results. I've seen people regain their energy, their focus, even their spark for life, simply because they took another look at their medicine list and asked a few questions. And sometimes, that first question is the hardest. Do I really need this? Is this medication still serving me? Could this be the reason I don't feel quite like myself anymore? But let me tell you, asking those questions is brave. It's strong. It's wise. You've made it this far in life because you've adapted, you've endured, and you've learned. And now, with everything you've experienced, you have the right to choose how you want to live this chapter. You can take control of your health in a way that reflects not only your medical needs, but your values, your hopes, and your vision for what's ahead. Because this isn't the end of the road. Not even close. It's a powerful time. A time to tune into your body, to reevaluate what's working, and to celebrate what's possible. Your life doesn't belong to prescriptions, it belongs to you. So maybe today is the day you sit down with a doctor or pharmacist and go through that list. Maybe you ask, is this still necessary? Or, could this be affecting how I feel? You don't have to do it all at once. Even one small change can unlock energy you thought was lost. It can restore a sense of vitality you haven't felt in years. And I want to encourage you, share your experience. Talk about it. Maybe a friend is going through the same thing but doesn't have the words for it. Maybe your story helps someone else ask the question they've been afraid to voice. And if this video helped you, even in a small way, I'd love for you to leave a comment below. Tell us what you learned, what you're questioning, or what changes you're thinking about making. Let this be a space of encouragement, not judgment. We're all figuring it out together. And if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like button, and consider subscribing for more real, honest, and hopeful conversations about health, aging, and everything in between. Because aging isn't about fading into the background. It's about stepping forward with strength, wisdom, and heart. And that's what you're doing right now, one choice at a time. So here's to living fully, to feeling vibrant, to asking the hard questions, making the brave decisions, and building a future that reflects who you really are. You've earned it. You deserve it. And it's never too late to start.